The Clone Wars is back. We can't believe it. We're going to talk about it. And also some solo bonus features that we're going to get on those home video releases. That and more right here on the Resistance broadcast. Welcome back, everybody. My name is John Hoey. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully we can ease your Monday or Tuesday or whatever day you're listening to this. Joining me today, as always, is James Bainey. What's going on, man?
Hey, nothing much going on, man. I'm excited about the news of Clone Wars. Really excited about that. I just had like a crazy weekend of what we call at our work Midwest Audio Fest. So we brought in some people, a couple of our brand ambassadors from California and Pennsylvania, and they flew in and spent the weekend with us, and a lot of taking care of people and stuff, but it was a lot of fun. I got to meet those people, and good times. But now it's all over, and I'm back to Star Wars world.
Did you bother all of them about Clone Wars? We just assume that they all love and know what Clone Wars is, and then just talk to them about Clone Wars?
We talked about Star Wars, but it's funny because I did a video with one of the guys, and he was like, I asked like what was his nerdiest, like the nerdiest thing he does besides speaker building. And he's like, I really love Star Wars. Well, okay, I know people will call me out if I say I really love Star Wars, you know? And he's like, it's funny because when you watch it, you can see in the video that he like looks at me off camera. Because we had already been talking about how I know and absorb more Star Wars than he does. He's more of a casual fan, but he really likes it, you know?
Yeah. So you're the go-to Star Wars guy.
Yeah, I tend to be that in a lot of different circles.
Speaking of go-to Star Wars people, Lacey is not with us today. She is, I guess, heading back from San Diego Comic-Con. So she'll catch up with us. She should be back next Monday. So you're probably going to get a full week for her to get Star Wars and stuff like this off her brain. And you're just going to have to deal with me and James for today. But we have a lot to talk about, and we're going to get after it. But first, obviously, we got those poll results. And we asked you guys, if Keri Russell ends up joining Star Wars Episode 9, what side do you want her character to be on? 11% of you said no side, kind of like DJ in The Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. Kind of an interesting possible angle there. 34% said the light side / resistance. And the winning vote, 55% of you out there said dark side / first order. James, were you surprised about this?
No. I think, number one, I think like Lacey and other people have really put it into the zeitgeist that, you know, she should be a Knight of Ren or some sort of dark character. Yep. But not to mention, I mean, you just say this in general. I don't think very many people were fond of DJ, so I don't think he's going to get like a, yeah, we need another DJ style character. And then when it comes to light side versus dark side, like we all like the light side, but it goes back to that like Spaceballs thing, like the light will never win because at the end of the day, light is dumb or something. But you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Dark people and the bad guys and stuff, that will always be cooler at the end of the day. Just look at our coolest character competition. It was like Vader and Kylo Ren versus each other. I mean, like, I mean, as cool of characters as Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and ObiWan Kenobi are, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like these Darth
doing the right
characters,
thing
these evil characters.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't smoke, kids, but smoking is cool. Like it's kind of like one of those like mixed messages.
Well, also, you know, I was thinking about it back in the day when I used to play with like my action figures, like out of the box and setting them up and creating my little stories and stuff. When you think about Star Wars, like it would always be like you would have the whole crew on the left side of the rebellion with the droids and everything. Then on the right side, it would always be like Darth Vader and like 2 stormtroopers like battling 30 action figures versus those 3 as the bad guys and like Palpatine. So when you think about it, like if kids today had like Star Wars movie, like this sequel trilogy action figures, it'd be like Rey, Poe, Finn, BB-8, R2-D2, C-3PO, Chewbacca, blah, blah. And then it'd be like, oh, there's Kylo Ren and Hux.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of true. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So if you add like get Keri Russell in there as like a cool, another villainous action figure on the dark side, even that out a little bit for the kids at home.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into like the speculation for her again. I just really don't see her coming in as like a Sith or something, you know, like some sort of other new villain. But I mean, we talked about that in the villain episode too, is like, that's one possibility, that since Snoke's dead, Kylo Ren is, who knows if he's a villain or not, you know. Hux has kind of been treated poorly, so. Maybe
she's Captain Kennedy's daughter and she wants revenge for the dreadnought going down. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No.
James, they have to be related to somebody. We've gone over this.
Yes.
Speaking of villains, actually, our best comment went to Villain at Scum and Villainy, not the bar. And they said, I said dark side just because having a female villain would be pretty refreshing. It doesn't really matter to me if she's a Force user or not. So kind of what you were just saying. Yeah, there you go. James, we can't move on to the Resistance report yet. You know why?
I do know why, but I'll play into your game. Why is that, John?
Giveaways, man.
That's right. We're going to pick a giveaway winner and announce the second half of the next part of the giveaway, if you will.
Right. So the giveaway results are in for the solo stuff. And that was the Force Link device with Han Solo, Han with his land speeder from Corellia, the Qi'ra action figure, Lando Calrissian action figure, and of course, Chewbacca action figure, all going to this one person.
Yeah, we like doing these kinds of giveaways where we just like throw together a giant pile of gifts and then it just goes to one person.
Yeah, it's like
Christmas.
I don't know, it's like a mini Christmas. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, I have another thing to unwrap, you know? Very cool. So, I mean, we're stalling here as they're all listening, wondering if they won. And we promised you that you'd have a better shot at winning this than navigating through an asteroid field, which was 3,720 to 1. So on this one, I think you had a few hundred to 1. I think that was what we wound up with here. But the winner of all of this solo stuff is Nathaniel Cole at NPG Cole. Congratulations, Nathaniel Cole, for winning all of that awesome solo stuff.
I hope that he hears it live on the podcast. Sometimes people don't tune in till like Tuesday or something, and we're always on the other end like, what are we going to do? We need to contact the person and tell them they won.
That always happens when we shout out to the people who made it on like Ask the Resistance. They're like, I was going to listen tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Nathaniel is the winner. So maybe we should just see if he hears it and then contacts us. And then when we get tired of waiting, we can just message him.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll try it.
All right, James. Now we can move on to... Oh, wait. We can't move on to the Resistance
we got
report.
more.
Okay.
We got more to give away, man.
Do you want to announce this one?
No, I want you to announce it.
Okay. All right, guys. So if you follow our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, you probably already know what we're giving away here. If you do not, and you just listen to us, that's cool too. But this is going to be very exclusive, hint, hint. Now, reimagine key moments from the Star Wars galaxy. The Force Awakens, Starkiller Base, the Forest. Finn goes down at the hands of Kylo Ren.
I'm listening.
Kylo Ren reaches out for that lightsaber. It flings past him, the Force theme hits and lands in Rey's hand, and you can have this moment now, folks. The Black Series centerpiece Rey and Kylo Ren Starkiller Base figure set. It comes with a premium high articulated Kylo Ren figure, a water mister for steam effects. Oh, that's pretty cool. An acrylic light up backdrop, which are all exclusive to this set. The Star Wars Black Series centerpiece Rey and Kylo Ren figure set was on sale only at San Diego Comic-Con and retailed for $110, James.
Yeah, that's why it's got steam effects.
Yeah, exactly.
This ain't no normal Black Series figure.
Exactly. And I know, you and I were not at San Diego Comic-Con. Lacey was at San Diego Comic-Con. I don't even know if she got this. But now nobody can get this, really. I think it's a limited supply left online somewhere. But it can be yours, guys, if you follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN and retweet our contest tweet with this. So it's that simple. Follow us, retweet, and you will be entered to win this awesome Black Series Rey and Kylo Ren Starkiller base steamy, misty set, whatever you want to call this thing, in the forest there.
And we'll announce Starkiller Battle of Dreams.
I like that.
That's what I want to call it.
Steaming, misting Battle of Dreams.
Steaming just really makes it sound terrible. Like it sounds like you're going to go down a different route. You're like, it's a steaming pile of awesomeness.
Well, this steaming pile of awesomeness will be announced with our winner next Monday. So stay tuned next week for that. And that is finally it for giveaways, James. Now we can fire up the Resistance Report. I think we got some cool stuff to talk about. So what's going on this week, man?
It's the Resistance.
All right, I'm setting the scene for this first story. It's San Diego Comic-Con. It's a bright, sunny day. And it's been 10 years since the Clone Wars premiered back on Cartoon Network, I think. And the stage is filling up with all sorts of people. Dave Filoni, Athena Portillo, Ashley Eckstein, Matt Lanter, Kevin Kiner, lots of classics, and they all gather on the stage to celebrate that 10-year anniversary, and they're going through all sorts of different things, like all these illustrations never before seen, and all these different things, only to reveal at the very end the most exciting news, which is that we're getting Clone Wars again. Whew. It's coming back. And they're going to be doing this, I guess, on the streaming service, the Disney streaming service. So you got to be subscribed to that. We've talked about that in the
must subscribe.
Gotta subscribe to that. Looks like the show's going to be doing 12 episodes, and they're going to be focusing on the Siege of Mandalore, which is a long lost story element that they have been talking about doing for years, but it looks like, Disney was happy with what was going on with Star Wars Rebels, and Dave Filoni asked to come back into this. Here, I'll just actually read this right here. It says, Dave Filoni, who helmed the show as supervising director during its initial run, resumes his role on the Star Wars continuation, which he can't wait to share with fans. I honestly didn't think we would ever have the opportunity to return to Clone Wars. Thanks to the relentless fan support and the team behind Disney's direct-to-consumer streaming service, we will now get to tell way more of these stories. We feel a tremendous responsibility to make something that lives up to the legacy that George Lucas created with the original series, and I think our team, many of whom worked on the show from the beginning, has risen to the challenge. So the new Clone Wars episodes will continue to tell the storylines introduced in the original series, leading up to the events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. I don't know, John, what do you think about this? This is this too little too late in your opinion, or do you think this is like, thank you, finally?
The feeling I get, and a lot of that has to do with the positivity that just kind of came out of the reaction to this panel, is that the time is right. It's kind of like when your favorite band is on hiatus for a while, and then for whatever reason, all the members get back together and they feel it's the right time for a reunion. And it feels that way for the Clone Wars in a sense. It feels like I haven't seen any real negativity coming out of the reaction to this. Even people who were angry at Disney and Lucasfilm are like, finally, they're doing something right. And the people who love everything are like, yeah, Clone Wars. And the people who always just liked Clone Wars from the beginning are like, okay, we're back. That's awesome. We get to finish this. So it's a universal unifying thing. So it's hard for me to possibly even imagine saying it's not right or bad timing. I think they nailed it right in the head. And a lot of this, even the guy who voices Obi-Wan, James Arnold Taylor, is that his name?
Yes.
He posted a video to Twitter saying, this is because of you, the fans, begging for this, save the Clone Wars, and because of Dave Filoni. So they do listen to the fans. They say that they do, and some people deny that they do, but they clearly do. And I'm excited. I think they're really going to do a good job with this.
Yeah, I agree with you on the there's hardly a way to say that this is a bad move for them, considering this is one of the few moves that they have to unify Legends and new canon fans. Considering this is something that was like it's like one of the few things that could almost be considered Legends because it wasn't movie canon that got canonized after the fact. You know what I'm saying? It's
almost like the wall in between Legends and movie canon to me. It's like that's a divider because Lucas was creating this.
I understand, but I still think that like the average fan would look at it like back in the day, they're like, oh, that's like expanded universe stuff. That's not, the movies are their own canon. And then whatever all these other stories are just, whether they're produced by Disney or not, those are the other stories. You know what I mean? But I think people looked at them as like the secondary tier.
That's fair. I think I did for a long time. I look at the Clone Wars almost like how I feel the prequels are kind of making a turn with a lot of people. I think they're more popular now than they were during their run. And that could have been because Star Wars was kind of quote unquote over for a lot of people. And it was just kind of like, oh, this is the last gasp of Star Wars we're going to get here is this series. And then we're done because George told all his stories. But now that there's more movies, people are revisiting it and tying it into other new stories that we have. I mean, look, we have Darth Maul back in Solo. I mean, right there.
Well, for me, the canonization of the Clone Wars was the thing that got me to go back and watch it. So I think that to me is the thing that at the time when it was airing, it did kind of feel like that to me. It's like, oh, there's more Star Wars out there and it's good content and it ties in with the movies, but there's a ton of that stuff. You know what I mean? There's all sorts of books and novels and comics, and I'm sure they all tie in with the movies to a certain degree. I know there's all these varying levels of canon. It's all super confusing. But then when they came in and they remade Clone Wars, like one of the things that carried over, I'm like, okay, cool. So that officializes it for me. Like I'm going to actually go and watch this show now. And then now that I watched it, I feel like I'm not the only one in that bubble. So now there was like, I don't know, like obviously these are stupid numbers, but like 500 people watched it and now like 1,000 people watched it. You know, so there's more people who partook in that series since it was canceled. If that makes sense, because it was canceled the same time they decided to make it canon. It was like in one foul swoop, it's like it's permanent canon and it's never coming back. So people are like, all right, so it's not an ongoing series. It's its own thing. 5 seasons. I can do this. And then they just go like binge it all.
Yeah, and I believe it's still available on Netflix now. It won't be for long.
I believe so, yeah. And the like first half of the 6th season and the movie, yeah.
And the movie, which a lot of people still don't like. But what I always found interesting about the Clone Wars series itself is that like a lot of my favorite stories aren't the Clone Wars aspect of it, you know? Like the Mortis arc thing, it's kind of like its own aside, I guess you want to say. And I find that stuff the most compelling to me. So it's funny how it's called the Clone Wars, but I'm more drawn to the stuff within the Clone Wars series that has nothing to do with the Clone Wars political aspect of the game.
I hear you on that. And I definitely think that the Mortis arc is like a go-to. Like I think that's probably the most favored arc in the entire series.
It's cliche to say almost, but I really like that one.
But I do think that if you look at the show as a whole, it definitely is like the story of, the Trade Federation and Padme, and they're dealing with this, and they go to this planet, and then they like that planet is thinking about becoming a separatist planet, you know what I mean? And they have to like win him back over. But the only reason they were even doing that in the first place is because Dooku is doing this thing. And I don't know, it really does play into the Clone Wars so much more than it just plays into like the Jedi in general or the Force. Sure. But those things are the like sidestep stories that really make people feel like they're part of it, I think.
That, and also being that it came out after Revenge of the Sith, and granted, we already knew how things go down before Revenge of the Sith. you kind of can almost make the connection where things flipped, where it's like, oh, the separatists are really the good guys, and the clone army is really meant for this empire. And you start seeing like, oh, well, you could apply that point of view to it because it came out after the events of Revenge of the Sith, which we saw on screen.
Yeah. What do you think these 12 episodes are going to be?
Yeah. First of all, very Netflix of them to pick 12 episodes. First of all, what that model's right there.
It is funny though, because I said to somebody, oh, that sucks. It's not even like a full season. And they said, well, it's kind of like they're finishing the 6th season, you know? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Cause it was kind of like, I think, I don't remember missions. Exactly, but it was like 12 episodes or something. And then this other 12 episodes does kind of like complete that 6th season. So it kind of makes sense. Well, but Clone Wars kind of known for doing 3-episode arcs. Do you think that the Siege of Mandalore is a 3-episode arc and then we'll get like more stories? Or do you think they're going to be like Rebels and like tell it over the course of 12 episodes?
I'd like a tell it over the course of 12 episodes. I think that's important because if you're bringing a show back that has been gone for 6 years by the time it comes out next year, you don't want, oh, that episode was a filler episode, like where Chopper did this for 20 minutes and then we got to wait till next. Like, I don't want one of those episodes. So I want 12 episodes where I can go bing, right through to 12 and it's a whole thing on its own little set. But I have a question for you. Very important question. So they purposely, obviously, figured out a way to have Ahsoka go away so that it explains her not being there for Revenge of the Sith, right? But now in this trailer, we see Anakin see her in a hologram and she's like, hello, master. Like, how's it going? You know, how you been? You know, one of those deals. So how are they going to explain, if they're going to bring her back in, which we're assuming they are, how are they going to then re-explain her leaving again? It's like one of those things like how we joked about Han and Han and Lando constantly having to have a final fight when they keep telling new canon stories before Empire.
Yeah. I guess my thing is that first and foremost, like, I don't think Ahsoka ever really left. Like, we have the Ahsoka novel. We know that she was doing stuff in Rebels. We know that by the end of Rebels, she is still alive after Return of the Jedi. Right. You know? So, I mean, I think that Ahsoka's involvement has always sort of been like a from afar type of thing. And her leaving the Jedi Order didn't necessarily mean that she was done in the show. They had plans for her and she was supposed to have like a boyfriend and all this other stuff, or like a romantic interest, I guess. And so they were going to involve her in the show. Now, her being involved with Mandalore doesn't necessarily mean that by the end of it, she could be friends with Anakin, but then say, no, this doesn't change anything. I'm doing this now. I'm not a Jedi anymore, and you can't bring me back. But it would be kind of interesting to, I know that she like walked away, but it would be really interesting to see. Not that I was unhappy with that, but I felt weird about the fact that like Anakin doesn't ever like refer to her at all in Revenge of the Sith. You know what I mean?
You know, that kind of stuff bothers me.
Yeah. So the only thing that I can think is it would be really interesting to see her like fake her death or lead Anakin to believe that she's dead, which would give like him a little bit more of a, like, instead of she's out there and I wonder what she's doing right now, a little bit more of like, I don't need to worry about her.
Well, that will give the Rebels encounter way more weight, I guess.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I think that would be a good thing, is that we're under the impression that she's dead and maybe Bail Organa is, oh, I almost just thought like, I was like, maybe we'll get to see Bail Organa in the Clone Wars. And it's like, yeah, he's in it.
Oh boy. You mean Jimmy Smits?
Yeah. Jimmy Schmitz.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all really interesting to me. I do feel like they really did a set way of making her kind of just walk away, quite literally, to show her absence. So I'm curious how they are going to handle this. But like you're saying, maybe they just say like, yeah, she's just doing her thing. She's just not involved in the events of Revenge of the Sith around Order 66. Or maybe she does this thing where she feels like she needs to hide because of it and rise up like a Kenobi later. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that when we see her in Rebels and her encounter with Vader, it almost seems that Vader is surprised that she's still alive. But like, but you knew she was still alive. She walked away, but you never assumed she was dead. You know what I mean? You'd think he would know that, but I don't know. I'm starting to get scared. I feel like we're like missing a story element or like a canon story of like why this was explained, and now we're just forgetting it. But
let's call Alex Damon right now. As we're recording.
So we just got off the phone with Alex and he says, yeah, we're all good with our stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
By the way, Jane, speaking of, we obviously Lacey's not here. We have to mention, if you guys are listening and you followed our live tweets from Star Wars Newsnet and the articles we threw together, I mean, Lacey was there in the panel covering it live for us and for all of you out there via Star Wars Newsnet. So we just have to give a shout out to Lacey for crushing that one. And,
yeah, I was going to bring that up when we first started talking about it, and it slipped my mind. But yeah, she did a really good job. There's pictures, there's video. She covered all these little like jokes and things. So even reading it, I felt like I was there. So she did a really good job. She
just brought us all into that theater as figuratively as possible. But overall, I'm excited about this Clone Wars thing. I'm like we needed another reason to get that streaming service, right? But now it's like, you and I have to get this streaming service now, or else we can't podcast. So
I was already getting it as soon as Jon Favreau was announced. Live action Star Wars TV show. It's happening.
Plus, you have a son, and I have one on the way, so we have to get that Disney thing anyway.
All right, so we got Solo coming out soon. We got an official announcement that we got an in-home trailer, which is always kind of cool. So they put together these little things that are basically like a trailer for the movie, but it really is more of an announcement for the Blu-ray and the digital release. And when are we going to be able to take this thing home? But after the trailer came out, we actually got a lot more information on what's going to be on these Blu-rays and DVDs, and there's a lot of stuff. If I'm gonna run down some of it, I mean, there's bonus features.
You're doing a rundown?
No rundown. Scoundrels rundown's next. We got obviously like bonus features. So there's like a director and a cast roundtable, some stuff having to do with like John Kasdan and Larry Kasdan, remaking the Millennium Falcon, stuff like that. We got deleted scenes. So Proxima's Den, Corellian Foot Chase, Han Solo, the Imperial Cadet, which we speculated was going to end up being a deleted scene. And then we got the much talked about snowball fight. So that'll be pretty interesting. There are all the specifications, we got all that information, 4K, UHD, multi-screen edition, UHD, Blu-ray disc plus digital code, all the things you could ever want. I know, John, we've talked about this in the past, but you're going to go like full on, right? With this guy.
Yeah. It's, I'm buying the 4K. I'm buying the Steelbook. I'm going to tear through all of those bonus features probably the first day I bring it home, just because I love that stuff. Which I should say is the DVD and the Blu-ray and the 4K and all that will be released on September 25th. But but they like to push the digital movement, so they give it to those people a little bit earlier to see if they can, I would hope, I hope the goal is to get people into digital and make it understand the benefits of it. But I think it's to maybe end up selling 2 copies. People buy the digital and then they're going to get because they can't wait. So they buy it and then they go get the Blu-ray when it's available, like Bob a week later. Like, they have no patience. I'll sell that to them on the 14th. And then in 11 days, when they see the artwork on the cover, they'll buy another copy. Yeah.
Most people were willing to pay $20 just to see the movie like before everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They get like a couple weeks to soak it in and be like, oh man, I've already been watching it. You don't have it yet? Oh man, I already been watching it at home.
And those 11 days feel like an eternity, and you feel like you're just not part of the crowd.
Yes.
But don't forget, to my fellow hard copy people out there, you get a digital code with your hard copy too. So you get everything that James and all those digital freaks get on their digital only download. Plus you get your hard copy and all that other stuff for the same price, pretty much.
Yeah, I think I'm still probably going to end up getting the Blu-ray on this, though. I argue against it every time, and then I go ahead and I do it, and then after the fact, I'm like, I don't know why I did it. I literally have never put in the Blu-ray ever for Last Jedi. I put in the Blu-ray once for Rogue One, but why am I paying more for that? And I think it comes down to like, if I want to like loan it to a family member, I don't lose it. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, part of it is I'm like, yeah, sure. Anytime. Absorb more Star Wars. Please go watch it. Go talk to me about it. Have a good time. But like, it doesn't interrupt my ability to watch it myself, I think.
Dude, I bought the $25 Steelbook of The Last Jedi, and I just watched it the other day on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. Yeah.
No, I thought it'd be funny if they made the Ron Howard. They don't have a full documentary, but if they called it like The Director and the Smuggler or something like that.
Yeah, you know what's not on this DVD and will probably never be is more Lord and Miller stuff.
I know.
I mean, you know,
yeah.
I don't blame them. I mean, that's like, I mean, it would be shooting themselves in the foot to be like, yeah, there were all sorts of troubles. We had to have Ron Howard come in here and fix everything. Yeah. But I think, I wonder, you know, as much as we like to say that stuff will never be talked about, you got to think like in 30 years from now or something, somebody's going to come along and have some of that information and be like, oh yeah, most people don't think about it today, but when that movie was being made, it almost didn't get done. You know, they had to push it back.
If only Tony Gilroy was involved with Solo, he would tell you today.
Yeah.
That guy threw Rogue One under the bus.
Yeah. It's just, but I mean, it's funny. Like, I mean, I think even most fans, let's go with casual fans, like just honestly think that George Lucas directed all three movies. Like but there's so many like background stories and things that we know about, like, well, this didn't work. And this thing was, you know, taped up and this was a problem. And so we improvised and just like, George was running out of money, so they didn't have this, you know, and just all these different stories. And now it's like looked on like, I don't know, it's like kind of like rose tinted glasses, like, oh man, that's so crazy. Little did they know it was going to be so good. And I hope that years down the line, like Solo and Rogue One and all these movies and anything that ends up having like this trouble will just be looked on like, really? It had trouble, man. It's such a good movie when you look at it now, and they'll be able to like open up the doors and be like, yeah, here's a shot done by one of the original directors, much like the Marty McFly thing, you know, like,
oh yeah. With
looking, I don't remember the actor's name, but like a lot of the movie was shot with that actor, right. And they had to make the hard call to go back and reshoot all that stuff with Michael J. Fox. And since then that stuff has surfaced, and it's like, it's not like a knock on the movie because the movie is so cherished. It's just like a piece of history. Dude,
Solo's going to be that cult favorite for Star Wars fans.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it's going to be cool to like the movie that people bagged on back in the day. You know it's going to be that. It's going to have that status, and people are going to love it for that reason.
I mean, just everything about Star Wars, I think, is that way. Like a prequelist, you know, for instance, like, oh, I always liked the prequels. And it's like, it's almost cooler now to say that you went and you never bashed the movies. I think part of it is because it's like, it feels flip-floppy almost to say like, oh yeah, I hated those movies, but I think they're cool now. It's like, well, what do you really think? You know?
Yeah. I kind of also, when I'm thinking about these deleted scenes and you saying like, yeah, no, Lord and Miller, I wish there was like, they snuck one hidden Easter egg on there where it's just like someone propped a camera on set and they didn't know they were filming. And you see like Larry Kasdan walk over to like Lord Miller, be like, stick to the pages. I wrote this, stick to the pages. And then it just goes blank. Like just hide one thing on there on the Blu-ray somewhere.
That would be funny, but I'm picturing that as like a leaked thing, like in production, and how bad that would look on Disney. You know, like if that if that ever got leaked, but it would be pretty funny.
Some guy who just like quits the company and he's like, I'm going to put this scene in there, hidden in there somewhere. There's one aspect. I know you're not a huge bonus features guy, right?
I usually will watch it once, and I think that it's like, I don't know. It's just, the thing is, like, I know that those bonus stuff is good, but if I have the opportunity to like do that, I'm not gonna watch Director and the Jedi. I'm gonna watch The Last Jedi. I'd rather watch the movie than the special features. So I usually end up only ever watching it like once or whatever.
There's one aspect, like a lot of this stuff seems like cliche and like expected, like Wookiee stuff, and we're going to have a fun time talking about putting the Wookiee costume on. And it's like, we get that. Well, we know what that's going to be. But into the Maelstrom, the Kessel Run, it says join Han and Chewie at the controls of the Millennium Falcon to see how the legendary moment in Star Wars history unfolds. I'm very interested to see the making of the Kessel Run, if that's what that is, the making of the Kessel Run scene, because I loved that scene, and it was such a historic, talked about scene that we've talked about on here, that we feel like they nailed that scene. So I want to see more about how that unfolds, as they're saying here. And then the deleted scene, like you mentioned before, the snowball fight, I just kind of got to see that happen. We saw the tease where Han throws it at,
really interesting,
where Han like tosses it at Chewie, but I want to see Chewie grab like a snowman-sized head and hum it and hit Han in the face with it or something.
I mean, I don't think you're necessarily going to get that.
No, but a guy can dream. I'm picturing like the Dumb and Dumber snow fight where he just mashes her face into the snow when he gets all serious about it. But I'm excited. I'm glad it wasn't like, again, The Force Awakens, which I felt like was lacking heavily, and I feel like they really learned their lesson since that, and they're giving us a lot of solid stuff on these features.
It's funny, the Force Awakens did have a lack of special features, but I don't really know that Rogue One picked up the slack. I think that it wasn't until Last Jedi came in and Rian Johnson was like, I'm giving you everything. I'm doing this and I'm doing this and stuff we never even dreamed of, like an all score version. Right. You know, it's like, you start thinking back, it's like, why don't more movies just do that? Like it's I know it's not a press of a button, but it's fairly easy to just like give us have someone go through and just kind of like remove these tracks or whatever. It's not that crazy considering, I mean, I can't imagine it's that crazy considering you have all sorts of like Spanish versions and stuff that you have to do anyway. Right. I just think somewhere in the mix, you might be able to do some of that stuff, but I don't know. Commentary is the big one for me too. Like, come on, man. Stick a microphone up to the dude and let him sit down there and watch the movie. Yeah, there's no because the commentary is like, I didn't shoot this scene. This one wasn't me. I don't know what went into this.
Imagine that's all he does, and then he's like, I shot this scene.
Yeah. I do remember this part. It's like 80. It's funny. 70 to 80% of the commentary is him actually talking about scenes.
Yeah. And then like the other part, he's just like, ugh.
Turns out that's exactly how I figure out what scenes were Lord and Miller
how much was reshot.
Yeah.
Again, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to sell well and perform better as a home release than it did comparatively at the box office.
That's a good thought. I don't necessarily know if we're going to find out that information, but I bet that's the case.
It'll debut number 1 probably. I don't know what it's up against, but also people, even if they don't like Star Wars movies, still need to complete those collections. So they'll still buy it.
Yeah. One thing is I feel like there's probably a lot of people that, I mean, there was a whole like ban or boycott Solo movement, you know? So you got to think those people too are like, I never saw the movie and I was very open about not seeing the movie on Twitter and with my friends. So if they ever saw me at the theater, I'd be in trouble. But I could buy it on iTunes or I could rent it. You know what I mean?
Peer pressure. You have to be a closet Star Wars fan now. What a time. You know who won't be buying this movie?
Lord and Miller.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford probably will receive it in the mail and never open it.
Yeah, like
They'll
Callista
send it to him.
Flockhart will take it and give it to like a family friend's kid at a birthday party.
Yeah. No, Harrison saw the movie, didn't he? Didn't he say nice things about?
Yeah, but he, you know how like little interested. So imagine like Callista gets.
I mean, I don't see him at first in line at Target. Like, I can't wait to get this release.
No, of course not. No, imagine his wife gets like Ally McBeal, Callista Flockhart gets that free copy from Lucasfilm just because he's Harrison Ford, and she like has him just sign it as he's doing bills and stuff, and he's like, "All right, I'll sign it." And then she brings it to someone's like birthday party, be like, "Look what we got you! Happy birthday!" That's what happens to Harrison Ford's copy of Solo.
I just want to like spend the rest of the podcast talking about all the possibilities. Harrison, are you going to be picking up the Solo? And he's like, there's a big long silence where he's like thinking. Yeah, I'm a steelbook guy. I always do Best Buy copies. Just like the most random answer.
Thinking about it, and I think I'm going to get the Target exclusive.
Yeah, that one has the book, right? Comes with a book. It's got the artwork in it.
or he actually wanted the free copy from Lucasfilm and finds out Callista gave it away at a birthday party, and then he shows up at the birthday party and he's like, "You stay away from my wife!" And he's like just pointing at everybody like every other movie he does.
He points at her and says, "Get out of my house."
Yeah. He's always pointing and yelling about something that happened to his wife in like so many movies.
Oh, man. Well, that about wraps up all the talk we can do on a Blu-ray release. News was kind of light this week, but there's one other thing that I think we're running a little late on time. So let's just throw it over to the Scoundrels rundown, and you can let the people know what else is happening this week.
All right, we're talking books here, and I have one story. So punch it. James, we're talking Thrawn Alliances here, man. I'll run this down quick because we are up against it. But we were lucky enough at Star Wars Newsnet to get an early copy from Del Rey, so thank you so much. We had our own Kyle Larson do a book review, non-spoiler, so go to StarWarsNewsNet.com, check out Kyle's review, non-spoiler, but a great review that'll really get you enticed to want to check this out. Kyle gave the book a 9 out of 10. He said it's better paced and overall a better novel than Thrawn, the first one. And Kyle said that Padme is the star of this book, surprisingly, even though it's called Thrawn Alliances and has Vader, Anakin, and Thrawn on the cover. But it shouldn't be lost that Vader is at the height of his ambitions and Thrawn is now Grand Admiral. And Kyle says, quote, "Timothy Zahn has proven many times that he is at home and most welcome writing in the Star Wars universe. His talents as a writer are apparent, but it also helps that he's damn good at writing Star Wars. If you're a Thrawn fan, there's little doubt in my mind you will enjoy this novel. If you're a Star Wars fan who has never quite gotten into Grand Admiral Thrawn, I'd suggest you get caught up just so you can read this one. It's a really great story and may provide signs of where Star Wars could go in the near future." Ooh. I highly recommend, he didn't say the ooh part, that was me. "I highly recommend this book. It's well worth your money and most importantly, your time." So great review by Kyle. He's a fan, 9 out of 10. It got me more excited than these excerpts. So I'm gonna check this out. I'm not sure if, what's his name? Mark Thompson? Is that the guy who does all the, if he's doing, is he doing the audiobook on this one?
I don't know. I know when I push play.
Right. Yeah. Well, I may check this out in that format just because I'm going to be doing a lot of driving in the next couple of weeks. But either way, I'm going to check this one out, and you guys should too. But James, that's it. One story. Bing, bang, boom. The rundown is over. But all of our stories, Resistance Report and the rundown, you could always catch them in full form over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. And that is it. It is time to find out what you guys are saying and asking us in hashtag #AskTheResistance. So Chewie, get us out of here.
All right, guys, let's do this. Ask the Resistance. Our first question comes from VMP at Vinny_Vegas. I can't say he got his handle, but it's kind of cool.
Vegas, baby.
This first one is aimed at me, and or I'll at least be answering it. And Vinny Vegas said, "Do you think we have too many plot doors open in the universe? Not enough answers for characters in movies and TV shows?" And for me, do we think we have too many plot doors? I think yes. But the word too many implies that it's beyond our level of comfort. And I think that there should always be plot holes or doors, open to the universe. I think that's where Star Wars has always thrived, in the sense of like an off the cuff comment that's like, "I'm never going back there again after what happened last time." And then the fans will read into that and they want to know that story. And I think that after a long amount of time passes where we don't tell those stories and we don't go into those threads, it provides new flourishing theories on what those things could be, or pick out what they think fans really want to know. Like, oh, we threw this off the cuff comment on it and hardly anybody ever talks about it. But this off the cuff comment, people are always speculating on that. So that's the story we need to tell. So I think all these little open doors and things are good for Star Wars. And one other thing too is like the fan service aspect of it. When like things are problems, and what do they call that? When it's like retro activated, retcon, right?
Yeah.
So to me, retcon is never, ever, 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 ever a bad thing. I think that it's part of, I know you say that, but it's part of the story that we haven't heard yet. So if I told you one element of a story and you pictured something in your head, and then I told you another element of the story and you're like, oh, okay, so it wasn't really what I was picturing. Now I get a greater picture of the whole. It's not my fault for doing that. It's your fault for picturing it the way that it is. But I don't
James,
know. Anyway,
you mean like Ahsoka running a deli during the events of Revenge of the Sith?
I know. Yeah. We're going to have this Star Wars war one day, I swear. But no, like, I mean, but that's a good example of like these characters that, where were they during this time? And that doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make sense yet. But when they tell the story, they'll tell it and it will make sense. It will fit in, and you might not like it, but that's the way that it happened in the galaxy.
Because they have to.
Because I don't know, because that's, it has to. They don't have to. It has to. It has to, because that's the way that it happened in the story. So let's move on to the next one. That's its own little side teaser with a big open door. Our next question is Benjamin Thompson at Crystal of Truth. That sounds very Secret of Mana. Yeah. I don't know. John, I'm going to give this one to you, but I'll ask you what Benjamin wanted to know. Could episode 9 have a dark ending? If the stories are to rhyme, will they go darker like in episode 3? Could Rey join Kylo?
I don't think so, Benjamin. I think it's important that this trilogy ends with a happy ending resolution to an extent. I know Lacey will say that means that Ben Solo has to be redeemed because it needs to be a happy ending. I disagree. Revenge of the Sith ended dark because we already knew 4 through 6 existed. So we had something leading up to a pre-existing story. We don't know that yet for anything beyond episode 9. Lucasfilm might. Maybe they already have 10 through 12 in the works for 10 years from now. But as far as JJ and his production and his writing for this thing, he has to kind of put a bow on this thing. And he's even alluded to the fact that he wants to tie the entire saga together, 1 through 9. I can't see it ending on a dark note, to be short with you there. And I really can't see Rey joining Kylo. I think I've personally beaten this over the head like a dead horse. I think that opportunity was there for her, and she clearly made the choice to go the way of the Jedi. And I don't think they're going to flip back on that. So Could it have a dark ending? Yes. Do I think it will? Not at all, man. I think it's going to be way more Endor, End of Return of the Jedi, than End of Revenge of the Sith.
And I agree with that. Slouchy at Slouchy 2, way to get your second handle.
Man, maybe he's also Slouchy 1, and he uses that for other stuff.
That's what I'm thinking, is like when he doesn't want to be associated. He's like a sports guy and a Star Wars guy. So Slouchy is like a very famous, like, he writes into questions for like ESPN and Sports Center and stuff. But Slouchy 2 like writes in for like Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who stuff, like when on all this podcast.
So maybe he has a sports/Star Wars podcast.
Yeah. There's also Slouchy 3, but you don't want to see the stuff that he's tweeting on Slouchy 3. You don't want to know. I've seen Slouchy 3. It's rough.
Yeah.
No, but Sachi wanted to know, what's your best cinematic Star Wars experience of all time? Mine will forever be seeing Maul's double-bladed lightsaber activate for the first time. Best childhood moment. John, do you have one off the cuff, or?
Well, I know you're going to be mad at this first part of my answer.
Shut it. Oh wait, hold on. Wait, I'll wait.
I have two answers to this. The first has to be being at the world premiere of The Last Jedi.
You shut it.
That was something I'll never forget. But in addition to that, in terms of like a single on-screen moment, like remembering experiencing it for the first time, it has to be Rey climbing the steps on Octo in her quest to find Luke with John Williams' Jedi Steps theme. That scene was legitimately the first Star Wars scene to make me like cry or get like emotional, and I'll never forget it. So that in terms of like an actual Star Wars moment on screen that I would consider my most memorable or favorite experience, it has to be that one there. And I will also give a quick nod to, I remember seeing the special editions of the original trilogy come back in '97, and that was a great experience too.
For me, I've talked about a story before on the podcast where I went to, I convinced my brother to go see the midnight showing of Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah.
Because it was the last chance that we would ever get to see a Star Wars movie at a midnight release, which is kind of funny now. That will probably always be just like a specific memory that I'll always have. But it's funny because like I don't really remember like specific moments in the movie, like any reveals or anything like that. Like all the original trilogy and the prequels and stuff are all blurred to me. Like I don't know. I must have a bad memory. So I'm gonna go to the more recent stuff. Like I really, really, really loved seeing Maul in Han Solo. And I
really,
yeah. And I really, really, really also loved, I remember sitting in the theater when Kylo walks up to Luke and puts the lightsaber through him. And it just like, it blew my mind. Like at that moment, I'll be honest with everybody. I came out of that movie thinking this could be the best Star Wars movie that's ever been made. Like, and I was totally blown away when people didn't think that, because my feelings on that moment, my mind was so blown. Like that reveal happened, and it's crazy to me because I'll never be able to get that back. And every time I see that scene, I know that he's really not there. But that first time I watched it, I don't know. It's just so amazing to see him go, and your brain is trying to like put together what is happening, and then boom, they cut to him on the island, and you're just our whole audience lost it, man, because we were like a 6:30 like fan showing, so we were like the absolute earliest you could see it, and I mean besides press and stuff, but.
Yeah, I saw it way before that.
Yeah, you shut up. No, but I imagine it's the same thing though. Like all of your audience did the same thing. Like, how the heck are they going to explain this? I have no clue what's happening right now. And then cut to the island. So, for me personally, like I think it's those moments right off the top for me. Oh, and the lightsaber in Force Awakens, like we talked about it earlier on this podcast, flies past Kylo, and everybody's thinking it's Luke Skywalker, and boom, it falls in the hands of Rey. And that's a bittersweet moment for me, because I think everybody's like, oh, darn it. But then, I don't know, for some reason, it just makes so much sense that it would be her, and the moment starts to sink in a little bit more. So, but I always remember that, because I think everybody thought it was going to be Luke.
James, I do have an update for you. There is no Slouchy 1 or Slouchy 3. But
what was I looking at then?
But there is a Slouchy, but they haven't tweeted in 6 years, so Twitter should purge them and get rid of them.
That's a good point. That's probably the only reason that Slouchy 2 is who he is. He's like, man, I really want that Slouchy handle, though. Yeah. I'm willing to compromise and go with Slouchy 2.
He checks every first Monday of the month. He's like, maybe it's available. Damn it.
Yeah, dang it.
Good
I've tried tweeting him to see if he'll get rid of Slouchy, if he'll delete his profile.
Nothing.
But nope. Or hand me over the password. You're not using it. All right, that's it for the Ask the Resistance segment this week. Good questions, and let's wrap up the show. Thanks for sending them in.
Absolutely. And keep those coming. I know there's a lot of you out there who still haven't sent us questions. Don't be shy. You can even email them to us if you don't want them on Twitter at resistancebroadcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us, just tweet at us, whatever. Just use the hashtag #AskTheResistance on Twitter, and we'll get to those. But it's one of my favorite parts of our show, so keep that coming. Also, subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Don't forget now, James has set it up where our different segments of our podcast are going to be in their own videos. So if you're in a pinch and you only have 10 minutes or so and you want to check out what happened on this segment, Ask the Resistance, you can get your own video and shoot through that quick. You can get our discussions, all that. And of course, our full episodes. So make sure you're subscribed on all of our formats. If you guys are interested in some of our swag, I know James is. I'm wearing our Gary the Pork shirt as we speak. You can go to tpublic.com/user/resistance broadcast. And we have about 30 designs on there. You can get it on a mug, a tank top, a pillow, a tapestry, a t-shirt, and in a few months, a hoodie. A lot of different options there. So go check it out. And if you like it, grab something. Also, head to StarWarsNewsNet.com, our website, for all of your latest news, reviews, information, editorials, and more. Lacey she won't be here with us Thursday, but she will be back next Monday. So you can follow her at Lacey Gillerin on Twitter. And you can find me, John Hoey, at Johnny Hoey on Twitter, and writing and editing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com every week. James Bainey, what about you?
Twitter, at Myra Trunks. Instagram, at Myra Trunks. In real life, in Ohio, wishing I went to San Diego Comic-Con.
Yep. And the future owner of Slouchy 1 on Twitter.
Yes. Yes.
All right, guys. We will be back with you on Thursday morning, where James and I are going to tackle a question that was pitched to us by one of you and talk about what viewing order is the right viewing order for the Star Wars films. Or maybe just our favorites, not necessarily the right one. But we have a lot of other fun stuff coming up on Thursday's show. So check in with us, and we'll see you in a few days right here on the Resistance Broadcast.